Was talking to Marcus Smart after the game, and he heard the disrespect. He heard what the naysayers have been saying. And Marcus Smart, after his best performance of the season in a Grizzlies win on Wednesday, had a message for all the naysayers out there. Let's talk about it. Coming up here on Locked On Grizzlies.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody who celebrates Thanksgiving out there. Hope you're enjoying the day with whoever you're with, or if you just want to chill and relax and enjoy the off day. I know some people out there work really hard. You probably just want to enjoy your off day. Well, that's cool too. Just call up, such and such, tell them bring you a plate and enjoy yourself. But thank you guys for tuning in with me on this special Thanksgiving edition of Locked On Grizzlies. Remember that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Now, new customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. So visit FanDuel.com right now to get started. Your favorite podcast also now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On Grizzlies daily newsletter, the one stop for your ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at lockedondaily.com. That's lockedondaily.com and start your day with the all new free Locked On Grizzlies newsletter. Another big win for the Grizzlies. We entered this week and I was blunt and I was straightforward. I said the Grizzlies shouldn't lose this week. And so far, so good. Pretty much in dominant fashion. Again, they played the Detroit Pistons on yesterday, 131-111 win by the Grizzlies. But this one was in particular, the way it happened, there were a lot of parts to break down. We're going to break down a lot of those things in the second segment and even some of it in the third segment. The first segment is all about Marcus Smart. We got to talk about what Marcus Smart did in this game. And if you weren't hip to Marcus Smart's performance and what he did against the Detroit Pistons in this game, Marcus Smart finished the game 25 points, 7 of 11 from three-point range. He made 7 three-pointers. He had 5 assists as well. He had 3 steals. Team high, tied for the team high in steals with 3. 7 three-pointers were obviously the team high. I mean, the team made 17. He made 7 of them. A plus 25 in 20 minutes. Plus 25 in 20 minutes. Let me tell you how that happened. I watched this game up close. I saw it. And this game was the epitome of what Marcus Smart can be. And the reason, before we talk about this game, we got a big picture of this thing. And when you look at the big picture about Marcus Smart, he came to Memphis. They traded for him, put him in the starting lineup. It was all this talk about, the Grizzlies have the last 2 Defensive Player of the Year winners. You got, Marcus Smart on the perimeter. You got Jaren Jackson Jr., on the inside. Like, this duo is going to anchor what should be the best defense in the league and all those things. And then, the Ja Morant 25-game suspension, and Marcus Smart moves over to the point guard. It didn't really work out. The Grizzlies struggled. And then what really was the story is injuries. Marcus Smart got hurt early in the season. He came back around the time, like a little bit after Ja made his season debut. And literally one game after Ja got hurt. Ja last game was against the Los Angeles Lakers last season. And then I think it was the day after is when he had the shoulder injury. Marcus Smart goes into the next game, plays, and then he gets hurt, misses the rest of the season. So injuries have kind of been a big part of Marcus Smart's tenure since he's been here in Memphis. Starts this season dealing with 2 injuries, most recently with the food poisoning that kept him out for 4 games. So he's battling food poisoning. Kept him out for 4 games. He's only been back for a couple games. I say all that to say, when you look at the tenure of Marcus Smart in Memphis so far, it's so incomplete, and we have not seen any big, sample sizes of anything. So I know a lot of people have seen the development of the other players and, the Jalen Wells and the Jake LaRavias and the Vince Williams and the G.G. Jacksons and so forth, and said, it kind of makes Marcus Smart expendable in a way. Joe Mullinax recently talked about the idea of Marcus Smart being a 6th man and Marcus Smart coming off the bench. All these different types of scenarios out there. So With all that being said, let's get into this game. The Grizzlies were struggling, and the Pistons were getting anything they wanted. It was kind of confusing. The Pistons started this game shooting 12 of 16 from the field. That's 75%, ladies and gentlemen. 12 of 16 from the field. They led 33-22. It was 31-22 when Marcus Smart checked into the game, but then they scored another basket after he checked into the game. So it was 33-22. By the time Marcus Smart checked out of the game, he checked in with about 3 minutes left in the first quarter. By the time he checked out of the game in the second quarter, about 6 minutes left in the second quarter, the Grizzlies were up 10. That's why you brought Marcus Smart here. That's who Marcus Smart can be. I'm not going to overreact to one game. I'm not that guy. And I think most people know that. That's why, even though Desmond Bane, once again, struggled. Desmond Bane only had 2 points in this game, shot 1 of 6, shot 0 of 3 from three-point range. Terrible night when you think about the standard that Desmond Bane is being held to. This is a guy who's making close to, a maximum contract, right? One of the highest paid players in franchise history alongside of Ja Morant. You're not paying him to score 2 points. That's just clearly one of the worst games of Desmond Bane's career from an offensive standpoint, what he's done as an NBA starter, at least. With all that being said, I'm still not overreacting. The sample size is just too small to me. I know people are building up. Desmond Bane's had 3-4 games where things haven't, looked right. I'm going to look at the back of the card always. Like I said, I need a month sample size, a little bit more than what we've seen, because for all I know, this is just a little shooting slump coming back off the oblique injury. With all that said, now with all that being said, there's another side to this too. And I said the struggle part with Desmond Bane to kind of lead into the idea that Marcus Smart just shot so great from three-point range, just at 25 points. I'm not going to go out here and just say, oh, yeah, put Marcus Smart back in the lineup. This is the Marcus Smart we've been waiting to see. He deserves to be in the starting lineup. But what I'm going to say, and what everyone should know, is that game, that's why when he left Boston, because the way fans react to trades will tell you everything you know. When Marcus Smart was traded from Boston, that fan base was sad. They knew they were getting Kristaps Porzingis and all that, and it still was, but why did we have to give up Marcus? You think, based off what the Grizzlies mean, be real with yourself, would you be sad if the Grizzlies traded Marcus Smart like that? No, you probably wouldn't. But at the same time, the difference is the Celtics fan base had pretty much a 9-year sample size of what he brings to the table. What we've seen in Memphis is a bunch of inconsistency. Play some games here, injury. Play some games there, injury. One good game here, injury. But one thing that stood out to me earlier this season when I talked to Marcus Smart was the fact that he told me, he said, I struggled like this at the beginning of last season too. And he said, what people don't talk about when we went to, New Orleans and we went to Los Angeles and I had those back-to-back really good performances, and he did. So again, this is a guy who big picture believes he's going to be that impact player. We have not seen Marcus Smart play enough for there to be full opinions on what he is as a player for the Grizzlies. Should he start? Should he not start? All that's up for debate. But the idea that, he's probably not an impact player is not a real idea at this point. What we saw in this game was a guy who completely flipped the script. He came into the game. The Grizzlies were down 9 points. The lead ended up going to 11. It was Detroit's largest lead of the game. Marcus Smart comes in the game. He exits the game. The Grizzlies are up 10. Detroit never leads again. I was talking to his teammates. It just stood out to me the way the guys talk about him. The players are talking about Marcus Smart. In the first quarter, he had a play where he stole the ball from Ron Holland. Well, he knocked the ball loose, and another Pistons player was pretty much in position to recover the loose basketball, and Marcus Smart just fully extends his body and dives on the floor, knocks the ball out of that player's hands and recovers it, throws the ball to Santi Aldama while he's lying on the floor, and gets an assist, and the Grizzlies bench went wild. And I'm talking to the players after the game, and they're like, Jalen Wells said, that stuff inspires me. And everyone's like, yeah, that's my vet. And they're saying that's Marcus Smart was brought here with Derrick Rose, right? And I remember when Derrick Rose came in, what was the conversation? Oh, he's going to be the guy to mentor Ja, and he's the veteran and things like that. And it kind of got swept under the rug, it felt like to me. Maybe not to you, but to me, it felt like that element of Marcus Smart coming in kind of got swept under a little bit because Derrick Rose, of course, he's former MVP. Him coming in that mentorship angle was understood. But Marcus Smart, it was pretty much the same thing. Like they went and got both these guys in the same offseason with an emphasis on adding veterans who've been there and done that to the locker room. Marcus Smart, 7 made 3-pointers in this game. 2, a couple heat checks in this game. The teammates, everyone that I talked to after the game, they were super happy for him. These guys love having Marcus Smart in the locker room. And he holds guys accountable, and he holds himself accountable. But what stood out to me is, Marcus Smart, he's kind of like Ja in a way where those guys that just wear things on their shoulder and they don't let stuff slide. Because after the game, he basically said, I love when people disrespect me. But that was kind of a part of the quote. Because I asked him after the game, I said, do you feel like, based on your tenure in Memphis, that people are starting to undervalue what you bring to the floor? And he said, for sure. And then here's the quote he said. He said, I love when people disrespect me and kind of lose sight of me and what I can do. And then you see nights like that kind of bring them back to their senses, in a sense. So Ja Morant, after the game, I think Marcus Smart was about to do his post-game interview with FanDuel Sports Network. And Ja Morant walked over there. And he said, man, put some respect on my dog name, and end the conversation right there, talking about Marcus Smart. I asked Marcus Smart, we asked Marcus Smart about that after the game too, and he agreed, with Ja. But there was another telling quote, just about the adjustment and the professionalism. And this is what really stands out about Marcus Smart. We've talked about him, being accepting of the bench role. And I think that part can't get lost in all this. He said, when you come from a place, from a different team, and you've been starting for the majority of your career, and then you go to the bench, people talk, and they're trying to figure out what's what. For me, I can't control what other people are thinking and saying. I can control what I can do, and that's just go out there, be me, be professional. Take what the defense gives me, hone in on the opportunity that I have in front of me. That's a veteran professional quote right there. So shout out to Marcus Smart. Really big performance. He's not going to get lost in this rotation. As long as Marcus Smart here, you're going to see these types of games from time to time where he shows that, hey, I'm still one of the more impactful players in that kind of, that role of a guy who can play defense, who can do all these different things and impact the game. Marcus Smart did just that. And you know what? As he continues to get consistent minutes under his belt, I think we'll see more of that going forward. But coming up here next on Locked On Grizzlies, we got to talk about the rest of the Grizzlies depth. It wasn't just Marcus Smart. There was a lot of people on the Grizzlies depth chart that had big performances. I'm going to talk about that next here on Locked On Grizzlies. But before we get to that, today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by FanDuel. Listen up, everyone. FanDuel is where you go to make everything more. FanDuel is the #1 sports book out there. Happy Thanksgiving. So you know what Thanksgiving means? Thanksgiving means Thanksgiving football. You see what shirt I got on if you're watching on YouTube. If you don't, then this is a green and yellow shirt. You know what green and yellow means? That's the Green Bay Packers, the best team in the NFL and the best franchise to ever grace the football field. But right now, you can go over to FanDuel and you can check out one of the Thanksgiving games. I believe you got the Lions and the Bears in the early slate. You got the Giants and the Cowboys, a little division rivalry there. Then you got the Green Bay Packers going against the Miami Dolphins over there in Lambeau Field. But right now, new customers, if you're new, you say, I might make my first bet on Thanksgiving. Go bet $5 right now. You can get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sports app gives you everything you need to place live bets. That's on the NFL and any other sport, all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game and you can check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more, then you place your bets. So just go visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies, and let's talk about the depth that this team is building right now. The Grizzlies are one of the deepest teams in the NBA. That's almost becoming a duh thing, but I have to keep saying that, and we have to keep reestablishing that because the pieces are moving. It's Scottie Pippen Jr. literally just went from a 30-point, 10-assist night to being the 11th man to enter the game 2 games ago, and to this past game, rejoining the starting lineup with Morant back injured, by the way, but rejoining the starting lineup, leading the starters in scoring with 19 points, also tying a team high with 3 steals, 31 minutes played plus 13. He just went from, in a couple days, basically the 11th man in the rotation to the starting point guard who led the starters in scoring. The reason that Scottie Pippen Jr. led the starters in scoring was because a lot of your starting production was not there in this game. And we talked about Desmond Bane having another down performance, right? 2 points from Desmond Bane, 1 of 6 shooting from the field. It wasn't a great night for Jaren Jackson Jr. either. Jaren Jackson Jr. finished with 10 points, 5 of 16 shooting from the field. Between Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr., you got 6 of 22 shooting. But you know what's different? And even Dez pointed this out. Desmond Bane told me, he said something like, man, if you looked up last year and me and Dez, me and Jaren, paraphrasing, he didn't say these weren't his exact words, but he basically was like, when him and Jaren had nights like that, it wasn't good. Now they're up 20, 30 points, on a Pistons team that had a respectable record coming into the game. The Pistons were 8-11 entering this game. So, again, this depth is really shining. And one of the biggest shining armors in this depth we're going to talk about is Jake LaRavia. We got to talk about Jake LaRavia because, I was talking to Dez again about him, and Dez said, man, we've been talking about him since his rookie year. And then you remember after his rookie year, right? It was a whole lot of buzz in the offseason. Oh, Jake LaRavia, that's the guy to watch. Then last season happened, of course. Injuries happened to him. And he had that stretch in like March where it was like, okay, Jake LaRavia's taking advantage of his opportunity. But at the same time, you didn't know how much validity was to that because of all the other players being hurt. So then this season comes. Jake LaRavia has been one of the most consistent Grizzlies players on a night-to-night basis. I don't even think that's up for debate. I'm not even willing to argue that. That is a fact. He has been one of the most consistent players night to night. Not even just scoring every single night. He's a great offensive rebounder, as Taylor Jenkins pointed out. Taylor Jenkins pointed out something else that Jake LaRavia has been saying for a while. With this new offense, it fits Jake LaRavia's style of play. And Taylor Jenkins said he's one of our best cutters. They're cutting a lot on offense. You need good cutters. You need good cutters. Jake LaRavia is one of the best of them. He's one of the best at attacking the paint, as Taylor Jenkins like to say. The Grizzlies like to get 2 feet in the paint, when they drive the basketball. Jake LaRavia has been one of the best drive and kick guys in the NBA this season. The stats confirm that his drive and the kick assists are near the top of the league in the NBA. So with all that being said, here's what you got from Jake LaRavia in this game. We already talked about what Marcus Smart gave you off the bench. You got 17 points from Jake LaRavia, 8 of 9 shooting from the field, 3 of 4 shooting on 3-pointers, plus 19 in 25 minutes. That plus minus has been pretty much a consistent thing for Jake LaRavia over the course of this season. So what I'm going to say right now is I remember when Vince Williams first came back. I remember the conversations we were having. And everybody, I'm a Vince Williams Jr. guy, so you'll get where I'm going here. But I remember when he first got back, and then Ja got back, Marcus Smart got back, and everyone was forming their 10-man rotations or whatever the case may be. No one was really saying Jake LaRavia, despite him literally consistently performing pretty much every night. He's not one of these guys where it's like, oh, he has a good performance this night, bad performance. Dude's been hooping, and it's impactful stuff. It's the rebounding that this team needs. It's the shooting that this team needs. It's the deflections that lead to getting out and running in transition that this team prides itself on. He's doing all the important things that make the Memphis Grizzlies go. But nobody was saying, oh, Jake LaRavia's in my 10-man rotation. Well, let me tell you something. As long as he's playing like this, consistent. It doesn't have to be 8 of 9 shooting, 19 points, all that. As long as he's as consistent as he's been, Jake LaRavia is not leaving the rotation. Even if Vince Williams gets back. Vince Williams is my guy. Even if G.G. Jackson comes back. It's my guy too. I do think eventually, those dudes are too talented. They work their way in to a rotation. But I'm just speaking on what we've seen up to this point. Jake LaRavia is not leaving the rotation. It's not happening. Not right now with the way he's playing. Now, if some struggles will come along the way or whatever the case may be, that's why you got all this depth. But let's make that clear. Jake LaRavia, the way he's playing, he's a fixture in what's going on right now. This guy is consistent. Taylor Jenkins throwing more at his plate. From a defensive standpoint, they're playing him at the 3. They're playing him at the 4. His rebounding is good. He's one of the team's best offensive rebounders. All the things that Taylor Jenkins needs from those glue guys, he's been really good at doing it. And he's valuing the role. Like we used to talk last year. I used to talk last year about what I liked about Vince Williams a lot was Vince Williams just always say, man, I love doing the dirty work. Like when I'm playing with John Dez, he's the guy. He wants to get his hands dirty. Jake LaRavia wants to get his hands dirty now. Jake LaRavia keeps saying, I'm a dog. I want to be a dog for this team. I'm interviewing Jake LaRavia after games. In this game, he had a big scar across his face like Scar of Lion King. Last game, he had a scar all across his arm. Like I'm like, man, you just came out of, a real battle or something. Like he was in one of those Gladiator, in the Gladiator movie or something. Like this dude is, he's got some real scars on his body. And he admits, he always says, they show more on me because of his skin tone or whatever the case may be. But Jake LaRavia is balling, and I think we gotta shine some light on what he's been doing to solidify this bench depth. And it's not just him. Like we mentioned, Scottie Pippen Jr. Again, and Jay Huff. Shout out to Jay Huff as well. I want to make sure we give mention to Jay Huff. Another game where he just was instant offense for Jay Huff. I mean, it's just getting repetitive at this point because the guy it's not every night, but he just comes in. Okay, coach, what you need from me? Fine, I got you. 13 points, 22 minutes. He knocks down a couple trays. Very impactful stuff from Jay Huff. And this is supposed to be, he's supposed to be behind Santi, Jaren, Zach Edey, Brandon Clarke. Like this is supposed to be your quote unquote fifth big. And he's coming in and giving you performances like that. This is one of the deepest teams in the NBA. I think that much is clear. 72 bench points in his game from the Grizzlies. The bench outscored the starters once again. One of the starters is Brandon Clarke. And Brandon Clarke is starting to heat up a little bit. We got to talk about Brandon Clarke's performing up here next on Locked On Grizzlies. But before we get to that, today's episode is brought to you by Skylight. Listen up, Skylight is the place for consumers. It's the top choice for an all-in-one touchscreen digital picture frame that allows you to share photos with your loved ones almost instantly from anywhere in the world. Choose from anywhere. Look, if you're missing someone this holiday season and you want them to be a part of your festivities from afar, do your loved ones live far away? And you wish, let's show you our pictures from Thanksgiving or our pictures from Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever you're celebrating during that time. We've got the perfect gift for you. Skylight Frame is the touchscreen digital photo frame from your whole family will love. Upload thousands of photos with your phone and watch them appear in seconds. It's so easy to use. The setup takes less than 20 seconds. You can do seamless sharing. All you got to do is invite friends and family to easily share photos via the free Skylight mobile app or through email. No account or subscription is acquired. Just add the photos straight from your phone from anywhere. Then it's easy to use. You can choose two sizes to choose from. You can get the original 10-inch or larger 15-inch gallery frame. They look perfect in any room and they can stand on their own, or you can easily mount them to a wall. I'm telling you guys, you got to go take advantage of this opportunity. And now, as a special limited time offer for our listeners, get $20 off your purchase of a Skylight frame when you go to skylightframe.com/NBA. That's Skylight, SKYLIGHT Frame, FRAME.com/LockedOnNBA. Get $20 off your purchase now at skylightframe.com/NBA. Coming up here on Locked On Grizzlies, let's talk about Brandon Clarke coming up next. Put some respect on the guy's name, man. Put some respect on Brandon Clarke. And I say that because he's starting to heat up. Do I think that Brandon Clarke is back to the double-digit scoring monster that he's been pretty much his entire career? He's averaged double figures every year of his NBA career, and he's not doing it right now. Do I think he's back to that yet? Not quite. Do I think he can be back to that efficiency monster that guy was? Yeah. I don't think he's, what's the word? Washed. I don't think Brandon Clarke's washed. I think it's funny when people say it because you look at the advanced numbers, the advanced impact is there. And now what you're starting to see in the last 3 games, here come the counting stats. 3 consecutive games now of double figures. Brandon Clarke, first time this season. In this game against the Pistons, you got 19 minutes now. He's starting, but he ain't playing, 25, 26, 27 minutes out there. You got 19 minutes from Brandon Clarke in this game. In those 19 minutes, 13 points. He was a plus 19, second highest plus minus on the entire team in that time frame. 6 of 7 shooting from the field as well. So now if you're counting, that's 3 consecutive games, as I said, where Brandon Clarke has put up double figures. It's also 3 consecutive games where he's been an efficiency plus minus monster. He was plus 9 3 games ago. He was plus 15 in the last win. He was plus 19 on last night. Plus 9, plus 15, plus 19. 3 consecutive games. None of that is an accident. It's happened because we talk about how he plays alongside of Jaren Jackson Jr. on the defensive end. His offensive rebounding has been really good. I don't think people think, that when they watch Brandon Clarke, like, because he's quote unquote undersized or whatever the case may be. Brandon Clarke has had before this game, and it's funny because we're shouting him out, and he just had 1 offensive rebound in this game. Before this, he had 3 offensive rebounds against Portland. He had 2 against Chicago. He had 3 against Philly. He had 3 against Denver. And then he had a couple against Denver in the win before that. Multiple offensive rebounds in all of those games. So total rebound numbers, 9, 8, 6, 4, 7 before this game. So all that is to say that you're getting right now what I think is a guy that's getting back to form. And talking to him after the game, and he said this to me weeks ago. Brandon Clarke told me weeks ago, like, I'm a slow starter, like traditionally a slow starter to the season, and I'm going to figure it out. And I felt like he was one of the guys who rolls. We talk about how, like, this new style fits a guy like Jake LaRavia, right? Santi Aldama with the cutting and how that makes things easier for them. I think the old style, which was more pick and roll, like Brandon Clarke is he is a very good rim runner. But this offense, there isn't as much of the old pick and roll and the old offense that you used to have. So you got more cutting, which, again, kind of impacts the spacing that a guy like Brandon Clarke likes to operate with. When the floor is spaced out, he can get to that floater, one-on-one situations and things like that. It's a little bit different now because you got guys cutting, and sometimes that brings an extra body, and you have to be more of a playmaker, whatever the case may be. So in 17 minutes, what you've seen is, I don't think it's, so much as he's missing many more shots, even though his field goal percentage is down. He's not even really been shooting a lot. He's averaging 5.2 field goal attempts per game up to this point. Last season in 6 games played, he was pretty much averaging 9.8. But before that, even if you go to a couple seasons ago when the Grizzlies were a 51-win team, Brandon Clarke was only playing 19 and a half minutes and averaging 6.2 field goals. He's just shooting 65% from the field. Right now he's at 55%. But you just saw a 6 of 7 shooting performance from him in his last game. And then even before that, 5 of 7 from the field against Portland. And even before that against Chicago, 6 of 6. So we're looking at these last 3 games where he's been in double figures in all 3 games. 6 of 6 shooting from the field. 5 of 7 shooting from the field. 6 of 7 shooting from the field. That's the old Brandon Clarke. That's the guy that I was talking about before the season, who's that microwave scorer coming off the bench. Because that stands why that stands out? Because you go to the game right before that against Philadelphia, 3 of 8 from the field. You go to the game right before that against Denver, 4 of 7 from the field, which is okay, but that's not Brandon Clarke. 4 of 7 is 57%. Brandon Clarke is a guy who's over 60% when he's playing at his best. I do think having Ja Morant back around in the lineup is going to help him. I do think, the minutes playing alongside of Jaren Jackson Jr. have been very beneficial for Brandon Clarke. Talking to him out the game, he's saying it to himself. He feels like he's starting to heat up a little bit. It's a good thing to see, and pretty much just adds more problems to this team. The Grizzlies got a lot of depth, and that is something for everybody out there to be thankful for on Thanksgiving. The Grizzlies are one of the deepest teams in the NBA. We finally get to kind of relish that depth, what it means, because quite frankly, that hasn't been the case. So many guys have been in and out the lineup. We rarely get to see the Grizzlies at full health, and we still not seeing them at full health right now. Ja Morant, now since we're on the topic of Ja Morant, Taylor Jenkins before the game kind of gave an update there, basically saying that Ja Morant is more day-to-day. I kind of said in the previous episode I didn't want to be too speculative, but now we kind of have more information there where we know that he's day-to-day. So this isn't something that's going to wear on for too long. We'll see what his injury status is later on today. So follow me over at, commercialappeal.com or over X over on X at Damichael C. And on both platforms, I'll post whatever injury updates, injury news that we have on Ja Morant. But it's nothing long-term. Everyone breathe in, breathe out, just a little knee contusion. Taylor Jenkins said it flared up overnight, which is kind of what I expected. And that's that. Zach Edey, still no firm update on him as of now, still not practicing. So once we know more on Zach Edey, I will let you guys know more there as well. But until then, enjoy the ride. The Grizzlies have won 4 games in a row. They'll play the Pelicans next. Joe Monax will have you covered on the next episode of Locked On Grizzlies to talk more about that. But don't forget, everybody, that your favorite podcast now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On Grizzlies daily newsletter, the one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at lockedondaily.com. That's lockedondaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Grizzlies newsletter. Thank you guys for tuning in to Locked On Grizzlies with me on today. Remember, like, rate, comment, review, subscribe to Locked On Grizzlies each and everywhere out there. Remember that Locked On Grizzlies is free and available wherever you get podcasts. Until next time, I'm Damichael Cole, and we'll see you on Locked On Grizzlies.